Today we have participants from over 20 countries, which is excellent. My name is Maria Kausto-Turner, and today we have our CEO Petri Järvinen highlighting our findings about emotions and experiences which actually impact employee behavior in mergers and acquisitions.
Yeah, thanks Maria, and thanks to all of you for participating in this call. Employee experiences in post-mergers and acquisitions integrations. Our topic today is most interesting. So let's go. Our company, Najadai Analytics, we have an analytics service with a laser-sharp focus on employee experience in post-M&A integrations. So in corporate mergers and acquisitions, we can help understand and mitigate the people and culture related risks, which, if not managed, very easily make an integration fail. Through our analytics service, we have years of experience on what's really happening on the ground in the integrations. Now, this webinar, however, is not a product presentation. Today, we will focus on actual experiences of the employees caught in the wheels of M&A integrations. We will put the employee in the center of our attention, give them the power to say what's important and what's not. We will focus on what they feel, see, hear, and say, and look at some repeating top issues and opportunities that they are bringing up. We will also explore some learnings on what has worked well in integrations and what didn't from the employee point of view based on our data. Before diving into the experiences of employees, this one page is the only thing I will say about our analytics product as such, so that you understand the context where our data is coming from. People Impact Analytics is our patent-pending AI-driven solution, which helps to understand and mitigate people and culture risks in M&A integrations to protect the deal value. It also helps building better, more engaging integration. Unlike conventional employee surveys, this is not a top-down exercise where the leadership decides what the important matters are. We proceed bottom-up, giving the employees the power. So that's not in the scope of today's discussion. We are also helping our clients in due diligence work, mapping the people risk landscape and opportunities before the deal. Our analytics engine is the key component here. It's fundamentally AI-driven, powered by emotion, behavioral science, and specific M&A process knowledge, some of which we have drawn on expertise of our partner Deloitte. We sell and deliver our analytics service worldwide, so if you are interested in hearing more about our analytics, feel free to contact me directly. In this presentation, I will be sharing some interesting data and observations collected and delivered by our analytics. To be very clear, all the shown data is of course anonymized, selected representative datasets from real data. But now enough of our analytics product. Let's now dive into the more interesting matter. How do people really experience the M&A integrations? Let's get started with some real examples. These 12 individual comments were picked up from the tens of thousands of records that we have collected over the years in the context of many kinds of M&A integrations in many countries. To me, looking at any collections of comments from any integrations, not just these 12 comments, to me the most striking observation is how emotional many of the experiences are. The people may be factually speaking about work community, employment safety, services and customers and their career opportunities, but it's very clear, and we can actually measure it, that there are strong emotional forces in play behind these experiences. If we are just simply addressing the factual matters, for example, by explaining why process changes or new tools or layoffs are necessary, we are missing a great opportunity to understand something deeper and drive the team towards better outcomes both for the employees and for the business. Another observation is that it's not only negative emotions that an integration creates. We like to talk about people risks, but there are tons of positive levers as well, which you can leverage to drive a successful change. Let's take a step back and look at the emotional content of the experiences, more on scientific basis, based on our algorithms and data we have collected. The map of emotions here, like our analytics product as a whole, is based on the scientific multicultural emotion behavioral research conducted by the University of Geneva in Switzerland. The research groups the emotions to 20 emotion families that you can see on the left, 10 positive ones and 10 negative ones. These emotion families rather nicely cover the human emotion space. In the context of M&A integration, the diagram here shows a typical distribution of how the employees experience the change emotion-wise in a very early stage of an integration. There's tons of evidence from the science that the emotions strongly impact the behavior of the people and hence logically the success or failure of the integration. This is also what our experience confirms. To fully grasp this, let's think what an emotion is according to the science. An emotion is our appraisal or assessment on what the things that I encounter, what will these things cause to me personally? Are the consequences good or bad? What might happen? Can I cope with the impact? And so on. Evolution has created this mechanism for a purpose. Hence, when we are afraid of something, for example, we are actually projecting what that something will likely cause to me or the people that I connect with, such as my family or my friends. And the science says the experienced emotion is impacting, among some other things, our action tendencies. In other words, our behavior is strongly impacted by the emotions, whether we recognize that or not. In an integration context, the most usual emotion in an early stage of an integration is interest. It's very natural since to a great extent in the early days, people don't yet know what will happen. And it is indeed significant to them since most people have a significant emotional connection to their work, especially when something is about to change. Interest is a very positive, engaging emotion. Its presence here is also partially explained by the fact that usually in the beginning of a corporate integration, there is lots of internal marketing done to showcase the benefits and opportunities of the integration, both to the business and the employees and the clients. But typically, we also see the early instances of fear and disappointment. Fear is kind of the negative counterpart of interest. We don't know what will happen, but we fear for the worst. In our brains and bodies, this will create a fight or flight response. Interest and fear are both gateway emotions, which live in the uncertainty sweet spot. They are update-hungry emotions which rarely stay static, but instead will transform into other emotions when we get more updated information. So the people feeling interest or fear, they will eagerly grab any signals they can find, interpret or even over-interpret those signals and use them to update their view on the integration. Especially for the interest, what we see regularly is that a lot of the initial interest will transform into other emotions in the later stages of the integration. It can change into positive emotions or negative ones, especially disappointment, fully depending on what's happening in the next few weeks and months. So my point here is if you are leading an integration, it is your duty to create good reasons for the many people who are feeling interest or fear to experience that the things are truly changing for the better. You are in the right spot at the right time to make all the difference. That means open, honest updates and even more importantly, actual experiences on what the integration means for the employees personally, especially for their employment, their career and their growth opportunities. As interesting as the emotions are, they are a bit difficult tool to operate directly. Although it's useful to understand the emotional landscape of the employees during the change, it's mostly more useful to operate through practical things which are impacting the employees and hence causing emotions. Powered by our analytics and the data we have collected, the picture here shows typical root causes which are creating the strongest emotional impact for the employees in integrations. The mapping is again based on the emotion behavioral science and powered by AI. This is real data from selected typical use cases. This time we are looking at a little bit later point in time, a few months after the integration started, so the employees do have some experiences on what's happening. Looking at the two dimensions here in the box on top right, we can see typical things which increase retention and productivity, driving successful change. On bottom right, we can see things which are contributing to the comfort zone, where people are happy but not driven to the extreme nor willing to change. These are feelings of satisfaction that you would measure with a traditional employee survey. Salary and benefits and premises are some typical example of that. In the bottom left corner, we see things which typically cause employee and productivity loss, efficiently destroying the integration and the M&A acquisition goals along the way. And then on the top left, we see things which cause resistance to the change, but not necessarily make people to leave. Observing some big patterns, these are some of the interesting patterns that I see. The biggest negative items are typically soft topics, such as leadership, communication, and corporate culture. Sometimes also work community, which however can also appear as a significant positive experience. That's why we see it as a yellow bubble here, somewhere between the positive and the negative items. Overall, leadership and communication mostly appear as negative items, if anything at all. It seems that people are talking much less about them when they are functioning well. And to me, it's not a surprise that these things are a little bit thankless tasks in that sense. Biggest positive items are typically somehow forward-looking business or personal growth-related topics, such as career, competence development, customers, growth, and future in general. Again, this is maybe not so surprising. People are often excited about how they can contribute to a growing business. The employees can be satisfied with their benefits or with the new office space or sometimes great tools, but probably not extremely driven by those. Those things are more keeping people in the comfort zone where they're happy where they are, not much willing to change. Let's take another step back and look at the bigger picture. Can we somehow compare integrations to each other in terms of employee experience with a simple measure? And how would the quality of employee experience change along time? Our analytics product calculates an indicator called people risk level, which tells us how strong the people and culture related risk is in the given integration at a given point of time. It's a number from 0 to 100. The bigger the number, the bigger risk you have. So it's essentially the inverse or the opposite of the expected success. What we see in our data is roughly an inverse change curve or even inverse hype cycle. It's an inverse curve since we are illustrating here the risk level, not the success, right? The typical evolution of people risk level is illustrated with this diagram consisting of 5 data sets from real-life integration portfolios. According to the data, an integration most often starts with expectations set relatively high, positive about new business opportunities and new personal opportunities, but having less visibility for the concrete changes and obstacles on the road ahead. You can see this as the measurement 1, which usually is conducted in the early days of an integration. The early positive tone may make the leadership sometimes too content on the relatively good start. Then, during the coming weeks and months, the integration unfolds, changes causing additional work to the people and sometimes migration, stumbling to concrete issues, for example, related to IT or payroll and so on. Some of the changes might end up not really fulfilling the initial promises, or they are being delayed, or they might be downright disappointing. All these facts, combined with the initial expectations set pretty high, they contribute to the situation often worsening once we approach the second measurement. The initial interest that we saw earlier in this presentation, it's partially melting to other emotions, especially disappointment and fear. That doesn't happen always, but it is a trend. We can rightly interpret this as an unfortunate overpromise, underdeliver situation. It's quite human action pattern, but it doesn't have to be so. With the right expectation setting and well-planned integration, planning and execution, taking the people into account, you can make the change much more positive and engaging experience. Then towards the third measurement, which is usually 6 to 10 months in the future, the situation usually starts getting better, especially if the leadership is awake and pushes actions to address the issues and leverage the positive levers. At this stage, there will usually be causes to celebrate early success, like actual cross-collaboration, new jointly won deals, realized growth opportunities, successfully migrated processes and tools, and so on. But still, after 6 or 10 months, we typically see the emotions running intense towards the integration. People are still having strong opinions on the new organization, new processes and tools, and often longing for the good old days. That's normal and expected. Even if you have, technically speaking, completed the integration by finishing all the migrations and you think you are in business as usual mode, the change that happened will still live in people's hearts and minds, probably for years to come. It has become a permanent part of their history and who they are professionally. By understanding and appreciating their experience, we can turn the eyes to the future. Another strong signal that we get from the data is that the integrations are truly different, even that they all follow similar principles. The actual experience depends not only on the integration process, but also on the initial conditions. For example, we saw the same client start a small integration with a measured people risk level of 17, which is really, really good, and another one with risk level of 95, which is the opposite. Both measurements were conducted in early stages of the integrations. The explanation is that in these two cases, the former owners had given their teams very different levels of readiness or lack of readiness to accept the deals and embrace the change. So the very early preparation with the employees, as soon as the deal can be disclosed, is very important. My final observation here is that quite obviously, although not visualized here, that the experiences are not uniform across employees in a given integration. Different teams will experience the change different ways. What we see is typically leadership, of course, managers, top experts, salespeople, and so on. They will have a more positive view on the integration. In general, anyone confident on their value in the job market usually feels relatively good in the times of uncertainty. It's also common that people will move through the integration with varying pace. For example, someone in marketing might jump to the new wagon on day one, switching to the buyer's brand immediately, if we make a little bit of a simplification here. But someone in customer service might be supporting the old employer's legacy products still for years to come. These differences are also reflected in the people's emotional experiences and hence our data. And what our data tells is that usually the people who are able to quickly move to the new, they will have a higher interest, contentment, and other positive emotions than the ones who are stuck with the old. And the ones stuck with the old are the ones who will need more support to help them see the big picture and their place in the developing business. There are many scenarios in M&A integrations, but one that we are seeing over and over again is a big company following a smaller one. So I wanted to dedicate one slide here to talk about what we are seeing in those occasions. When a small company gets acquired by a large corporation, the emotions within the acquired employees are almost always intense and often polarized. There will for sure be a lot of positive interest and also a fair amount of fears. How the employees are experiencing the change is probably not surprising. They will be missing the old family spirit, and they are afraid of increasing bureaucracy, complex systems and processes, afraid of changing to a number instead of a human being. They are concerned about how they will find their place in the new large faceless organization. but there will also be great curiosity about new offerings and customers, new colleagues, bigger projects, international cooperation, career path, skill development opportunities, and so on. This is indicated by the high level of measured interest, as I was saying earlier. So the leadership will have a great responsibility on how to set the expectations correctly and how to fulfill the expectations and how to tackle the fears, many of them being valid, some might be overreactions. One thing is for sure, whatever happens after the acquisition, any and all the problems will be blamed on the buyer, even if it's something which would have been needed in any case without the acquisition, like for example, cost savings, restructuring, IT upgrade, moving to a new premises, sometimes even layoffs. When something goes wrong, everyone will look at the buyer and say, I knew this. So you better have a good plan and great open communications about what's happening and why. Now we all know there are several strategies how to integrate a smaller company. The options vary from a full integration to keeping the target company a separate subsidiary business. I can't tell you what's the best model, as it depends on your use case and what the benefits you are pursuing with your acquisition in the first place. But I can tell you this, it's common wisdom in business that the most difficult position in any decision is somewhere in the middle. If you don't want to be here nor there, but somewhere in the middle, you better be explaining your strategy very, very carefully to all the stakeholders, and it's still likely you will get misunderstood by many. My final point here is to very visibly appreciate the acquired company. Even if you do a full integration, try to find some good practical things worth saving and applying them to the wider organization, whether it's part of their technology or some team spirit practices or certain useful tools or great elements in the client experience. The employees will notice that you appreciate what they have been doing and they will appreciate you back. I told you in the beginning that I won't be delivering an absolute truth about how you should be running M&A integrations, but I can share some of our experiences, what we have seen about what has worked well and what didn't. Let me start from a certain action which, according to our experience, are never ending up well. If you give even a slightest indication to one person standing by the coffee machine that the integration might not bring many changes or maybe none at all, this message is instantly spreading to the whole organization and taking as a promise that nothing will change. It will set completely the wrong expectations, and you will fight against that for the weeks, months, and years to come. The reason why you did the acquisition in the first place is that you want things to change. So the correct message is, depending on your plans, of course, that there will be many changes or even that expect everything to change. And then explain why the changes are needed and what they are. Be very careful about things you promise. Only promise something when you are truly both willing and capable to fulfill the promise. And don't make too optimistic plans. It's of course important to be aspirational and push people forward, but have enough contingency in your plan so that you typically accomplish or even overachieve what you have planned and promised. That will give you credibility in the eyes of your employees and your leadership as well. And finally, one of our clients said very well that the most important task in an integration is to protect the target company from the buyer's arrogance. And that is very true. There is a reason, probably many reasons, why you bought the company in the first place. So help the acquired business and the people to flourish and deliver the results. And finally, let's look at some things which to our experience work well in integrations. Things which are contributing to better engagement of the employees, leading to smaller people turnover, better productivity, and less resistance to change. First of all, by setting the expectations right gives you a running start for the integration. Do your future self a service and avoid having to fight against unrealistic expectations for the months to come. This is closely linked to open, honest communications, which you need to continue every week and every day on all the levels over and over again. Have you ever seen an integration fail because the leadership communicated too often and too clearly? I haven't. The communication needs to explain both the business view, which is why and how we are doing this change, and the personal view, which is what does this mean for me. So understanding the personal view is indeed important for the emotional response, as you may remember from my earlier slides, as emotions develop based on assessment on what the change will mean to me personally. But people will be interested in both views. In addition to their personal view, they are maybe to surprising levels keen to understand how the business will develop. It's also not a one-way street with communication going top-down. You should consider engaging the people in early stage, make them heard, giving them opportunities, big or small, to contribute building the new business. Some people will be more eager to participate than the others. Quite soon, the employees should be cooperating across the border between the old and the new employer, one way or another. Whether it's about serving a joint client or winning a deal together or forming a cross-company project team, this will give the people the feeling of working together, winning together, belonging together. Celebrate the early joint success. The two companies come from different backgrounds. They probably have different strengths, different cultures, different value to the clients, and so on. Different people. So embrace the differences. Build a winning team with the combined strengths and combined value. Preserve the best on both sides. Create something where 1 + 1 equals much more than 2. That's it. Our time's up. Thanks for your interest. Please do contact me if you want to talk about these matters more, and especially if you want to hear more about how our people impact analytics can help you or your clients drive M&A integration successfully to protect the deal value, or to run a more accurate due diligence before the deal. We are selling and delivering directly to the clients and also growing our partner network. So hoping to talk with you again soon. We will also continue running webinars, usually once a month. In our next webinar, likely November, we are planning to talk about how you can measure the employee experience, landscape, risks, and opportunities in the pre-deal people due diligence stage, while maintaining the sensitivity and confidentiality of the situation. We will keep you posted, so stay tuned. Thank you, and Maria, back to you, please.
Okay, excellent.